Hi, Brandon Monroe here, and you're listening to the Bernie Breakdown. Well, better late than never. Welcome to the Bernie Breakdown. I'm Brandon Monroe, and alongside me tonight is Mark Chavez and Jeremy Miller. We were trying to get this out the other day, but due to scheduling, we had to push it back, and that was a good thing, as a lot of news came out on Thursday across all of the NASCAR series. Let's start it off with Zane Smith. He was one of the dominoes that we still had yet to fall in terms of the silly season and where he'd end up next year. There's a lot of rumors saying he's going to be back in the Truck Series. He's going to be in Xfinity. He's going to be in Cup. And, well, if you guessed any of those, you're kind of right. Today it was announced that Front Row is bringing Zane Smith back to drive the 38 in the Truck Series full-time. He will be doing some Xfinity and Cup races. Teams haven't been announced yet. One of those starts will be the Daytona 500, so that's really good for Zane. I mean, I think this is a driver that's obviously having a career year this year in the Truck Series. His stock couldn't be higher. Ford, maybe they wanted to move him up to something else full-time, couldn't get that deal done, but at least they're able to keep him in their camp, and he is going to be on track a lot more next year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many races he ends up doing. Particularly in the Cup Series, just because I feel like a lot harder to put together a team, and I mean the money just isn't there. But we do know he'll be doing the Daytona 500. I hope we see him in a good amount of Xfinity races. I think he's definitely going to have to showcase his talent more, I think, to get the sponsorship to move up in Cup. But the fact that they're already announced that he's going to do likely both next year. They weren't 100% definitive on the Xfinity Series, but certainly said they planned to explore it. Certainly shows, though, Ford and Front Row Motorsports in particular are definitely interested in keeping him. This would have been crazy a couple years ago, but I do think Front Row Motorsports is a decent team now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think going there could springboard you a lot easier into a better ride than it would have before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's too surprising because there wasn't too many seats left open, so him staying put made the most sense at this point. The Cup starts, I mean, the Front Row has ran a few different extra cars at times. The biggest question mark for me is the Xfinity Series. I wonder if they're going to start their own Xfinity program, if they're going to kind of like maybe throw them in one of the seed cars with the Ford logo on it or something like that.
I think that's a possibility. Maybe, and this is probably a long shot, but you could see Stuart Haas, or more than likely probably like BJ McLeod's team, because I know they've outsourced a couple guys there, even Bobby Daughter's team. Like, there are a couple of teams, those lower end teams, that would probably be gladly open to take Zane Smith for at least a couple races. I think they'll figure that out. I know personally, I'm not surprised that he's back in the Truck Series. It just comes down to sponsorship, and that's unfortunately something Zane doesn't really have enough of to move up. I kind of feel like it's actually harder to get the sponsorship for the Xfinity Series because you just have to argue the return on investment there. It's definitely not as great as the Cup Series, and you're paying a lot more in the Xfinity Series than, say, the Truck Series, so it's kind of the hardest series to sell, in my opinion. And then you look at the Cup Series too. I couldn't see him going full-time for Front Row. They're having a great year with Michael McDowell. He doesn't seem like he's going to retire anytime soon. And Todd Gilliland's shown flashes where you can't really get rid of him. The only other team that he's really been linked to recently, anyways, would probably be Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. And Chris Buescher's just done too good of a job to let go of him. And we know Brad's not retiring anytime soon. So I think this is pretty much, the Truck Series, the full-time ride there in the 38 is probably the best thing he had on the table. And he is lucky to get these other races to go with it next year.
It'll be interesting to see how it all pans out. It's definitely not a risk, but I mean, if he does go to the Xfinity Series and struggles a bit, probably puts a big damper on any chances he has of actually moving up, just because there are so many people with money that it's natural that it doesn't take much for them to jump up in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just hate... Sorry.
No, I was going to say, it's similar to like John Hunter Nemechek just staying in the Truck Series, where he's had an okay year this year, but it's not up to the standards as it was last year, and people are kind of just, wondering what's going on with him because of that.
Yeah, I hate seeing these really talented young drivers with sponsorship issues while we have guys like Jesse Iwuji driving a Coke car this weekend.
I think Jesse Iwuji probably brings more to the table in terms of like an ambassador, but I would agree.
It's shitty for these guys that like have the talent to stick around in the sport, but can't get opportunities because they don't have the financial stability behind them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I definitely feel like good move for Zane. Keeps him with the team that he's doing good with right now, and it's gonna be interesting to see what they could do next year. Hopefully, they can at least keep it going in the Truck Series, because I don't know about you guys, and you can probably give an answer here right when I'm done this, but I've been getting the feeling over the last couple weeks this seems eerily similar to John Hunter Nemechek's season last year, where they had the great regular season, and it kind of felt like that whole team let their foot off the gas comes the playoffs, and it just kind of feels that way with Zane right now. I mean, he's in a really good position to advance to the next round. I think he's got like 46 points up on the cut line right now, so nothing to worry about. But in terms of, the performance, they've definitely seemed a little off compared to what they were doing, just a couple weeks or months ago.
I mean, their strength earlier in the season was definitely on your mile and a half, your bigger tracks. We'll see after they go to Kansas in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not as hot as they had been.
Mm-hmm. So that will definitely be interesting to see what they could do there. Moving on to some other contract news. Penske's just not letting anybody go, apparently. Joey Logano and Team Penske announcing a long-term extension. This comes about a week after they announced one for Ryan Blaney, and given their other drivers, Austin Cindric, and who his dad is, I think their core three there are not going anywhere for a very long time.
I mean, Joey Logano is still relatively young, is a popular driver, even though he's also, quite disliked. But I mean, he's won, 2 races this year?
Yeah, and the Clash.
Won the Clash.
Yeah.
Has been close at other races, so it's not as a champion not all that long ago. Certainly not surprising at all.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to want to change anything in that organization. If somebody told you that they're surprised that all three of those guys are going to be the drivers at Penske for the foreseeable future, they're just lying to you, or they know nothing about the sport. So it's kind of one of those no-brainers. They got a pretty good lineup going there, and I mean the weak link is Cindric, but even then, young kid with the family ties to the team, there's no reason to move on from him, even from the talent perspective of anything. I mean, he's a pretty good race car driver, so
it's funny. Some people wouldn't even say he's the weak link because he has a win this year. I know I've been seeing a lot of those comments this week when people are arguing about the cut line and the playoffs and saying, Truex and Blaney have had terrible years because they haven't won. So
those are those people that don't know a lot about the sport that I was talking about. So.
They're definitely coming from a different time. I would agree. I'm with you. That gets me a little frustrated when I see that, because they are probably newer fans, and the way NASCAR pushes, winning is everything. I get why they say that. When you're having a top 5, run in the season-long points, it's not a mediocre season. But
I'll save my opinion on it because it's related to tricks too. I'll save my opinion until we get back to the Cup
Blaney,
series.
though, I mean, it's not even like a top 5 season in the points. He's solidly in there. It's not like he's fringing around.
No, but I mean that's.
Yeah,
I would agree with you. Back to Cindric, he is the weak link on the team, and I use those,
but I mean,
quotes.
He's 15th in points as a rookie.
It's a solid year.
Right. He's had a really good year. I mean,
he's got a lot of people
thought William Byron.
I think a lot of people thought he was going to win the Daytona 500, and you were only going to see him perform on the road courses, and that's it. And he's had some good runs. I think he got a pull at Auto Club earlier in the year as well. He's definitely been better than I thought. At the beginning of the year, I picked him to win a race. I picked him to win a road course, though, not a not the Daytona 500, but he's definitely done better than what I anticipated him to do this year. That's for sure.
Hell of a way to start your Cup career. Obviously not his first start, but like the first one that really mattered. So
Yeah. I mean, first one of your full-time rookie campaign. I know he was in the 500 last year, and he ended up in that big wreck at the end of that race. But he showed flashes last year in his part-time schedule, and he's definitely carried that over this year. And Logano, Blaney, and Cindric. I know maybe the wins aren't there this year, but they're all going to be in the playoffs. You've seen consistency out of Logano and Blaney, and you've seen some very good flashes out of Austin Cindric. So that team does seem like it's in a very good position moving forward.
I mean, I could see all three of their drivers making pretty good playoff runs, even Zendrick. So definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if he could get into that second round, you have the Roval
Right.
there, you have a
Wins
plate
the
track,
Roval, and you're in the
Yeah.
round of 8. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard to beat Chase and Larson at the Roval, probably.
I'm not expecting it, but like, you'd be crazy to say he doesn't have a chance.
No,
at it,
I mean, I think if you're Austin Cindric and you get into that second round, you survive Talladega, you have a pretty good chance with the final cut race there in that round being a road course. I don't think it's that crazy. But yeah, I know. I know this was supposed to be about Joe Logano. Any other thoughts on that contract extension, guys?
No.
No.
It's not like we can dive into the term because typical
I know
NASCAR contract, we don't know squat about it. So
the Penske ones really piss me off because they
Long-term.
they are probably the most vague out of any teams. I feel like when it comes to contracts.
Well, because like a lot of the other teams, they won't tell you how long the driver's extended, but they'll like extend the sponsor, and it's
you
kind of like
get an idea.
to read between the lines type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Penske, it's just like, yeah, we're signed long term.
Yeah. You don't know. Like, I thought Logano signed like a huge extension. It might have been, honestly, it could have been back in like 2015 or 2016, which is a long time ago at this point. But I thought he had like a 5-6 year deal before this extension. He very well might have. It just time flies. And it's kind of hard to find, actual contract lengths. But Logano not going anywhere, Blaney not going anywhere. Cindric also probably not going anywhere anytime soon. He is a rookie, but again, given who his dad is, given that Tim Cindric has such a high member of Team Penske, I think those guys are going to be sticking around for a very long time.
If Cole Custer's keeping his ride another year,
that's fair. That's true. Moving on to somebody who might not be keeping his ride for much longer, unfortunately, and that would be Kurt Busch. It was announced today that he will not be ready to go for the playoffs. Kurt doing the honorable thing since he doesn't have a timetable. They don't want to take up the playoff spot. He has withdrawn his waiver, and that will allow Martin Truex Jr. to, as of right now, be in. Still has to get through Daytona, so we will see what happens there. We'll talk more about that probably here in a few minutes. But just your thoughts on the Kurt situation. He's not coming back anytime soon by the sound of it. Is now that he's not going to be in the playoffs, we know that. Do we expect to see him back potentially before the end of the year? Or are we just putting the brakes on it and we'll see him next year if he comes back at all? What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I think they're still going to try to come back. I think at this point they would have just said they're done. But I think they should shut it down for the year. I think I'm pretty confident he'll still get back in the car at some point. But I think if his goal is to not just get back in the car for the last couple of races and call it a career, shut it down, come back next year, go out on a full season. I mean, we saw Junior miss part of a good chunk of a season, more than, I guess, actually pretty close to the same amount.
Yeah, if Kurt doesn't come back, it'll be close.
And still come back and didn't have a great year, but still came back and got to race out his final year. So I just think it would, to me, if they're not planning, or if he's not planning on retiring, just shut it down. There's no real point to continuing at this point.
I think it's more likely that he retires if he ends up back in that seat before the end of the year than if he doesn't. Because I could see him like, all right, let me just get one last hurrah out of it. Versus if he doesn't end up back in that car, I definitely think we'll see him back again next year, which is pretty much what you said as well. But I don't know. I just don't see
Just-
Kurt wanting to go out like this
The risk versus reward just doesn't seem worth it
unless he was
at
done
this
and
point.
just
Well,
wanted to.
no, exactly.
I know. I'm gonna be very interested to see if he does come back when he comes back. Because as of right now, I do get the feeling. This is just my opinion. I don't have any sources on this. And maybe one of you guys heard something where it possibly is true, but I just get the feeling this decision was made because Toyota wants to try to get another Toyota in. I feel like they made it now because if they talk to NASCAR about this, NASCAR doesn't want to be adjusting the playoff field the middle of next week if something were to come up and Kurt isn't able to go.
Well, I think by definition of the rules,
Mhm.
If he didn't withdraw till next week, he'd be in the playoffs still.
They wouldn't kick him out then.
I think by definition of the rule, because I was thinking about it, and since technically he's out because he's going to miss Daytona because they withdrew the waiver then, but he had the waiver for the past races already.
Yes.
So while they're NASCAR and ultimately they make their own rules, I think by letter of the law, if next week they had made this decision, he would still be in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Now this pretty much was the last chance for them to do something if they were going to do it, and I mean I get why Toyota would push for it if they did. I want to make that clear. I have no way to know if they actually did or didn't, or if they, had an influence in the call. But it does make sense since Truex is the first person out to make this move if your intention is to get another Toyota driver in.
If we're being brutally honest, he's a better chance of winning the championship than Kurt as well. I mean,
well, yeah, if Kurt right now, yes, because even if he comes back, we don't know how healthy we'd be. We saw how Junior was after he came back from his concussion. It takes time, and it can change you. You might not be willing to make all, the same aggressive moves that you would in the past. So just from that aspect, even if Kurt was ready for Darlington, I would probably agree that Martin Truex Jr. would give them a better chance right now.
I mean, I agree. Speed over the year, give me Kurt,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that he's coming off a concussion would likely take some time getting up to speed. I'm inclined to agree.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be real funny when Ricky Stenhouse wins this week and Ryan Blaney makes it in. And then in the Final Four, Ryan Blaney finishes first and Denny Hamlin finishes second. And Ryan Blaney wins the championship, all because if that's what happened, they got Kurt to basically withdraw, basically give up.
So Ricky's your pick to win this week? Is that one of
No, he's not. I just literally picked the first name I saw that did not have a win.
The 45 is still in the owner's points, so if
the
Stenhouse
45
won,
is still in the owner prize.
That would bump Blaney out. So I mean, that would be pretty freaking funny.
Can you imagine the driver champion's car not winning the owner's title?
Do we have an owner's trophy for the Cup Series?
Actual trophy? I don't think so.
I don't think we do.
in the lower two series, the money is determined by both the driver points and for the teams, both the driver points and the owner points. In the Cup Series, there is not a separate bank, one for charters, but two, just when is this ever going to happen? Which is also why they don't, like, at the end of the day, the 45 charter is still it's not going to finish 6th or 17th in points. So they'll still get whatever money from that, which is what at this point they probably care about more, just because it does look like Kurt would. And that's the thing, right? That first round is rough, right? You got Darlington, then you go to Kansas, and that's fine, but then you go to Bristol. And it would not be shocking if Kurt had come back and gotten a wreck at either Bristol or Darlington. So certainly no guarantee that he doesn't just come back in one of those two races and injures himself, which is why I think it makes sense if they don't think he's gonna be good to go. But I mean, that's certainly what you said is certainly something we'll never know. I don't think, but I mean, if that was the case, it would not be the most shocking thing.
Mm-hmm. So I know we will get a little bit more into the point situation in the Cup Series and all the things that could happen there and winners and all of that. Any final thoughts on Kurt before we move on to the Xfinity race?
I'm just mad that I'm not going to get 16 winners in the playoffs now.
There actually is one more piece of news that you missed here. Michael Waltrip is on Bumble, and I just wanted to say, Mikey, you go get you some.
I saw that today and I laughed. That's pretty good. That was pretty funny right there. I don't really think we could make a segment out of that, but good for Mikey for getting out there. Moving on to the Xfinity Series. Got a couple of Cup guys in this race. Justin Haley, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., pretty solid plate racers. Justin Haley, the favorite at plus 800, driving that fourth car for Colleague. Definitely going to give his teammates another drafting partner and should make an already strong team at these tracks even stronger. I'm looking through some of these odds here. Not as spread out as I thought it'd be, but I think there's a bunch of guys who could go out there and win this race on Friday night.
Something about you saying Justin Haley, the Cup driver in the field, just feels wrong.
It might be, but it's true. It's Cup winner at Daytona, Justin Haley too.
In this event.
In this event, yes.
Well, not only is he a Cup winner, but he is also an Xfinity winner at Daytona.
Yeah.
Giving Colleague 4, and since he's racing, Colleague will have 4 cars, which is exactly why I think that Landon Castle at plus 1,500 is going to take the checkered flag.
Really?
From an organizational standpoint for Colleague, it makes the most sense. Hemrick, while certainly could also be in bubble trouble, has had more speed than Landon Castle, and helping Landon Castle wins guarantees them at least 2 cars in the playoffs. Probably, effectively, it guarantees them 3.
Hey, I would go trademark bubble trouble while you can.
That was really good.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, it's Daytona. Who knows?
That's fair. I know we won't be diving deep into these picks because you summed it up right there. It's Daytona. It could be anyone. Jeremy, who do you got for your pick?
Yeah. Career win number 1, Riley Herbst. Order up.
I'm down. I could ride with that.
He's had a pretty good year at the plate tracks, honestly.
And he's just due to win a damn race.
I think he's finished top 10 in all of them. Maybe I'd have to go back and check. But I was looking at him too. You're right, and he's had speed, like I said, he's been good at the plate tracks this year. So plate style tracks. Atlanta's always going to confuse me, but when I say plate tracks, I include Atlanta, at least this year.
Well, I'd hate to burst your bubble here, but they're tapered spacers.
Well, yeah, but that's true at Daytona and Talladega.
Well, right. No, I'm saying everywhere, but yeah.
Yeah.
We call them plate tracks, but
the problem is you call them plate track, you call them super speedways, but then there are places that call Pocono and Indy, and sometimes even Michigan and Fontana super speedways. So if you say plate, they know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there? I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but I feel like there's one track that's like really not that big that calls itself a super speedway, and it always drives.
I mean, technically, I think Darlington does.
I think it's anything over a mile,
like Darlington, because I think Darlington was like the first super speedway. Because back then there weren't very many big ones. But who you got, Brandon?
I'm gonna be boring. Give me Austin Hill with his third 3 for Dale plate win on the season.
I was very close to picking Austin Hill, but I knew someone would, and you're right, he is the boring pick.
Yes, that is the very boring pick, but I don't know. He's been so good on these tracks this year. He arguably could have won all of them. Yeah,
all of them.
He could have won all of them.
He won 2. He had a great car at Talladega. And a great car at the first Atlanta, or I don't even have as great of a car at the first Atlanta race, but finished second in the first Atlanta race. So, no, he obviously could have won all of them.
Yeah.
He's led 33% of the laps at plate tracks this year.
That's...
having already had 3 or 4 plate style tracks, that's ridiculous.
I get why Richard said he reminded him of Dale. I think he's a little crazy, but I get it with the dominance that he's had on these types of tracks so far this year. He's definitely shown his worth. So I'll go with the boring pick. Give me Austin Hill. Maybe I'll be a little bit more fun when it comes to the long shots, but who are you guys looking at for those?
I'm going to go with none other than someone we have not yet talked about being in this race, but Joe Nemechek plus 15,000.
That's what I like for the
Damn
plate
it.
tracks. That's what I like to hear.
I was gonna go Joe too.
He's in a Sam Hunt car, and as much as I know John Hunter likes to win, I would not like. I feel like an opportunity to push your dad to his first win in NASCAR in 16 plus years. You probably just do it if the opportunity arises. In a Sam Hunt car, which have had more speed this year, and, I mean, plus 50, I get he is not full time, hasn't ran a lot of races, but plus 15,000 in that equipment. When you look at all the equipment that's also plus 15,000, is a freaking steal.
Yeah. I think he's got to get into the race, but
I don't imagine that would be a problem.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
That could end up it's true, but
a plus 15,000. Yeah, what 100 was it? Yeah, plus 15,000. You can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong with that.
Oh, you pulled that one right out from under me.
We've all been there, bud.
I know. I was actually gonna say, like, I'm kind of sad they're not running a scheme similar to what Todd and David did with like the big dog, little dog. Like, it'd be cool if they had something like that with the cars this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have to pivot now, and I am going to go with somebody that's going to be trying to win to get in, Myatt Snyder.
Like that pick.
I think
pick.
Snyder is a decent plate driver. Maybe not the best driver in that odd range, but you know what? It's a plate race. It doesn't always come down to who's the best. So
he was in position in February here before he ended up in the fence. So it's a solid pick. I mean, if things shake out differently, I don't know if he had the run to win that race, but he definitely comes home in the top 10, maybe even the top 5. So he could get up there at the end of these races. You just gotta be there at the end. That's number one thing, and sometimes that doesn't even cut it. Like it didn't for him, but I like the pick. I think that's actually a pretty solid one. Going with mine, it's tough because I like both of those. I'll put the money on Brandon Brown as they throw back to his race-winning car at Talladega from last year.
I was gonna say he's actually in his car this week, right?
Yes, he is. He is in his car this week. They announced too that was it Larry's Hard Lemonade is back on the car. So glad to see them work out their differences and partner together for this race.
Listen, Brandon seems like a nice kid, but that team could not have bundled the gift they were given more than they did.
They unfortunately did not handle that situation at all.
First they tried to distance themselves, then they tried to not distance themselves, but not in the right way. Like so much people made so much merch from him effectively that he did not get a penny of.
Should have trademarked it.
I literally walked into a local bakery one day. I don't know if you guys remember the picture I sent to the chat that one day. There was "Let's Go Brandon" cookies sitting there. Like,
oh man, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, you go, like the gypsy tents outside of the tracks and stuff. All the "Let's Go Brandon" merch.
There's a lot of things in those tents that don't belong within 100 feet.
That's true. No, those are NASCAR fans.
If there was a NASCAR track in a school zone, there'd be some problems with those gypsy tents. So
yeah, it's a possibility. There's a lot of stuff under those that I do question, but the whole situation with Brandon Brown obviously hasn't ended well for him. He's had to step out of his car for a bunch of races and for most of the rest of the season. It would be interesting to see what would happen if he did win this race, which would give him an opportunity to be in the playoffs. I don't know what they would do because they already sold those races to Chris Wright, I believe. Like, you can't really pull back on it.
Well,
I feel like.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's probably not. I assume he'd still be running Talladega.
Yeah.
So if he wins Talladega, gets to the last round, then I think they might be able to get together the sponsorship to take back the races that they sold him.
Yeah.
Because he's highly, even if he won the race, he'd be highly unlikely to get it out of that first round of points. So I don't think they'd have to worry that much about whatever those two tracks are, the Roval and Texas.
Could always run over to Mr.
Yeah.
Matt Collig and try to get that 14 car on the track until the end of the year.
I don't know how much money that would take, though.
When
That'd
you're
be
in
the
the
problem
playoffs,
there.
though, I feel like it's
It
a
seems
little
to weird
easier to
things.
sell. Like,
Yeah. I don't know. Colleagues stretch so thin right now, and
yeah,
who knows? They
well,
might
and they're
have a
trying to buy
little.
another
I
charter.
think if they get to that last round, they'll find a way. Is all that I think.
But that'll be interesting to see what goes down there. Head-to-head matchups. It's a plate track, so sometimes I feel like you might just be better off flipping a coin. But anybody want to throw their hat into the ring here and give out a head-to-head pick?
Yeah, I think it's all going to come crashing down this weekend as he tries to do too much for no reason. Sheldon Creed's going to crash, and John Hunter Nemechek will finish ahead of him.
I mean, I already picked Herbst to win the race, so I'll take Herbst over Sam Mayer.
Do like both of those. Myself, just going through these, I'll take Justin Haley over Justin Allgaier. Haley's minus 120, Allgaier's even money, but Haley's just has such a good track record here in these races in the Xfinity cars. It's not going to shock me if he wins. That might be a little bit of a even more boring pick than Austin Hill, but while Haley has a lot of good luck, I feel like the Junior Motorsports cars, I know they won Talladega with Noah Gragson, but they seem to just find a way to wreck almost every one of their vehicles at the end of these races. So I think Justin Haley will be there at the end. I don't know if Justin Allgaier will be, so I'm going to go with Haley there in that matchup.
I just don't think Justin Haley's been the same driver since he took a picture with me.
Well, he can blame you for all of that.
Yeah, all the bad luck. You shouldn't have met him. Looking at the fantasy lineups, as long as you kept it under the allotted salary, you could have just drawn any names out of a hat. So what are we going with here on the fantasy side?
I am going with colleague supremacy. Justin Haley, 10,600. AJ Allmendinger, 10,200. Daniel Hemrick, 8,200. Landon Castle, 8,100. And then from there, I'm filling out the rest of those whole two spots with Joe Nemechek at 6,300 and Anthony Alfredo at 6,600. I mean, Joe Nemechek has a ton of experience, and Alfredo had a good finish at Daytona here in the I guess that's spring, kind of winter, honestly. But so yeah, that's very similar to what I did at Talladega, and most of my teams will die, but then there'll be a team that I probably make a good amount of money on. So.
Yeah,
And,
it's a
I will say,
race.
of all the teams that play the restricted play game, I don't think anyone does it, at least in the Xfinity Series, better than Colleague does.
That's fair. I would agree with that.
With it being a plate race, I don't think there's any reason to really read my team in order, so I'm just going to go down and what it's listed in front of my face right now. I got Sheldon Creed, Noah Gragson, Austin Hill, Myatt Snyder, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and J.J. Yaley. And
Definitely
really no
like the
comments
Stenhouse
on any of them.
Yeah, I know. It's Daytona.
Yeah. I think all of them are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, like, just, with Hill, Gregson, Ricky, you got decent drivers, Creed, Snyder, people who need to win, and J.J. Yaley is J.J. Yaley. He's cheap.
Mm-hmm. Definitely some solid plays there. I know for my team, I move stuff around. I thought about going the colleague route. I really did. But I decided to mix it up. You have Brandon Brown, 6,900. Already have him as my long shot pick to win. Let's go, Brandon. We have Myatt Snyder, 7,300. Told you, I did like the pick that Jeremy made. I think he'll probably be able to keep the car clean for most of the race. Hopefully it ends better than it did in February. Next up, Sheldon Creed, 7,900. Gotta keep the car clean. That might be asking a little too much out of him, but we'll see. He's not completely in a must-win situation right now. I think he's only 39 points back of the cut. So if he can get through Daytona clean, if any of the colleague guys that are in front of him, if Ryan Sieg, who's also in front of him, many of them have trouble, he could be within striking distance to make it in on points again. So we'll see. Creed's got to be smart, but if he can keep it clean and in one piece, I think that could be a pretty solid pick. Next up, I do have one of the colleague drivers, Daniel Hemrick, 8,200. Then we have Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at 9,600. I think he's going to have a strong race. Very good plate racer. Wouldn't shock me one bit if he was in victory lane at the end of the night. And finally, my pick to win the race, Austin Hill, 10,000. He's been the best plate racer this year. I expect him to be at the front, and that's why he's on the team. But that'll do it for the fantasy side, and I'll wrap up the Xfinity portion here. Moving over to the Cup Series. I know we have a lot to talk about because this is the Cup race. Let's just start by looking at the odds here. I know it's a restrictor plate track. I think we all have our typical drivers that we would assume are favorites. DraftKings, though, they're going a little out there. Maybe not too out there because some of these guys do have good track records. But we got Chase Elliott as the favorite at plus 1,000. Bubba Wallace plus 1,200. He is in a three-way tie for the second favorite, along with Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin. I get why Bubba's up there. He has run very good at these types of tracks. Just plus 1,200. That's somebody who I thought going into the week, could be a long shot pick at maybe around plus 2,000 or something, but they definitely have other ideas.
You could argue Bubba should be the favorite for this race. You really could. With
That's
late race success as of late, the must-win situation, like there's factors there that you could make that argument.
So I'm going to counter that right away and say, what Toyota teammates are going to help him now? Because you can't.
Denny
Might.
Denny will.
Ty.
No, I don't think Ty will.
Oh, he's in the 4050. I don't know. And that's the thing. They're in a tough spot because you have Truex there. I would get if Denny pushed Bubba because he owns that car. I think that trumps being the teammate. I don't know. My thing with Ty is I don't know where he'll even be because his plate, like just the trying to think of the word, damn it, just the amount of time he's had on the plate tracks. I know he's got Atlanta. He did win Atlanta, but Daytona's different from. I mean, you said it before. It's a plate track because you have the plates on the car, but does it really race the same as these? I don't know.
I mean, I do think it races the same as Atlanta, or much the same as Atlanta. Dega is a different beast, but I think Atlanta and Daytona are pretty similar.
The lack, granted, you are right. He did win Atlanta. There was a lot of wrecks at the end of that race. He kind of came out of nowhere there at the end, but he did win. Just the lack of experience on the plate tracks. I don't know if he'll be in position to help these guys. Is what I'm trying to get at. I'm with you. Denny might go with Bubba. I don't know what Kyle would do. I hear people talking about, man, if a Toyota driver pushes a non-Toyota to the win, there's going to be hell to pay. But Kyle might be completely out the door. He might just say, screw it. I'm going to push whoever gives me the best chance to win.
I mean, Kyle's going to do whatever is best to Kyle. So I don't think that's shocking.
Yeah. I just, at the end of the day,
2311 has every reason to try to get 23 in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ty will likely still just stick with him. At the end of the day, like, especially like in terms of future with the team, like, sure, championship prospects, Truex has a better chance of winning the championship. Although I think his chance of winning the championship is pretty small. But from a organization standpoint, I think Toyota would rather have Bubba in the playoffs than Truex.
Definitely gives you more eyes on the team.
Much more.
I would say that. That's definitely fair. But
and with all that said, I am picking Bubba Wallace to win the race.
Oh man, he's going with Bubba. Wow, you must be. See, I can't go there. I can't knock you for the pick because he has been very good on these tracks, but I'm just not feeling it. I'm not. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, why I'm not feeling it is that there's only 6 Toyotas. And if you get to the end of the race, who knows what's left? But just the lack of help there, it could make it a little tricky for him. But Bubba has been really good, so I can't fault you for going with him. That's a definite.
This guy is making my night really tough. Pivot
Did you have him pegged too?
Yeah.
I as soon as he said that he counters that, thinks that Bubba should be the favorite. I knew he did, which is why I jumped in and picked him.
So let's go Ricky. Why not?
Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
One of the best plate racers in the sport. If anyone denies that, they're an idiot. So, yeah, why not?
The quick pivot to Ricky Stenhouse. I mean, he was in position to win the 500 this year before he got into it with Brad there at the end of the race. So it's another one where I would not be shocked if they won. I'm going to follow the trend here because I think there are too many good restrictor plate racers in this race that need a win to make the playoffs. Where I don't think Martin Truex Jr. and Ryan Blaney are safe.
I can almost guarantee who you're about to say.
I'm going with the guy who, based on his tweets earlier today, does make me worry he might wreck the field again. He's going balls to the wall, 110%. Give me Brad Keselowski to win the race and get a Roush Fenway Keselowski car into the playoffs. I think he's going full Ricky Bobby in this one. Checkers are wreckers. We saw it in the 500. There's a lot of wreckers. I don't think he's going to want to piss that many people off again, but...
Really, does he care?
He doesn't. I don't think he does.
Who cares if he makes it and then gets just eliminated because everyone just dumps him? He still made it.
He still made it. I think he's going for it. He's going to go full send.
Before I make the value pick, I just want you to know that I had Brad's name that you had picked down before we even started recording. So
you just knew I was going with him. I mean, I did pick him to win this race a couple weeks ago when we were doing predictions. So I can't say it's that much of a surprise.
It's you. I think we both knew coming into this, you were going to pick Brad to win the race.
We were going there.
We talk a lot about guys who are good at plate track, and I don't know how has the odds he has, to be honest. But give me Michael McDowell at plus 4,000 for the value pick. We've seen him at plus 4,000. I feel like at other tracks where he is almost certainly not going to win. And I can get him at plus 4,000 at a track he already has won at in his career.
Mm-hmm.
In the same situation as everyone else we've already picked. You got to win to get in. I'll definitely take Michael McDowell here.
What's our odds threshold again for the long shot?
Usually it's 15, but the plate track, it's all different. So really,
I will stay away.
25.
I will stay away. Well, then
we'll go with 25 just because that's what both Stenhouse and Brad are.
Yeah, all right. Then we're gonna go Chris Buescher. I'm gonna go the other RFK car here.
Christopher Buescher.
Christopher Buescher. Sorry. Oh God.
I mean, basically, officially, as he said, he's gonna stick with Christopher. So.
Yep. I was looking at Haley as well. Don't want to go too far on that before Brandon picks here, but yeah, I'll go Christopher Buescher.
Yeah, Justin Haley might be the guy that I have to double pivot to because McDowell was definitely on my radar, and so was Christopher Buescher. Justin Haley, I know he's a great Xfinity plate racer. I know he has a win in the Cup Series at Daytona. That's another one where I don't know. The Cup Series is a different beast. So I don't know if the experience that he's had and the great runs he's had in the lower series is a direct, translation to here. Right. So it does seem kind of weird to say this guy is my long shot because he's only plus 500 more in the odds from Brad. But I'm going with Austin Dillon. Obviously Daytona 500 champion. He's come close to winning a couple other races at Daytona. Does have a dual win here from last year, so solid plate racer. Plus 3,000. I kind of wish maybe he was a little bit higher, but I think these guys know when you have the 3 on the side of the car, that's definitely good for a little bit more horsepower. Am I right?
I mean, that's definitely true. He's obviously good at the pit track.
It'll make for a great episode of Life in the Fast Lane.
Oh, true. But they might not be filming that anymore. They might be focusing on that championship.
They got the other documentary going now, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Before we pivot to our group bet, just 2 other guys that we haven't mentioned that I just are in the same boat, need to win. And
Eric and Eric?
Yeah, Eric and Eric. I wouldn't say Eric Jones. I mean, he won at Daytona, and I feel like after Daytona, there wasn't a lot of restricted plate success, but I mean, he was very close to winning at Talladega earlier in the year. Eric Almirola has teammates, and Cole Custer sucks, so he probably won't be in the picture. Teammates who are locked in now. And that's my biggest concern with like Justin Haley is he has Chevy teammates, but there are a lot of Chevy guys that could be trying to race their way in. Stuart Haas, we've not at Daytona, but we've seen them orchestrate the restricted plate game to probably the most success anyone's ever had in the Cup Series. In the race that Eric Almirola actually won. So it would not be shocking if either of the Erics take home the trophy and sneak their way into the playoffs.
I'll say one other person I would like to throw out there because I was all in on him in February for the guy I picked to win this race, send him upside down. Harrison Burton at plus 15,000. Obviously, I highly, highly doubt it is the same car that he ran here in the 500 since that one did end up on his lid. But plus 15,000, we did see him run good throughout speed weeks. So that's another one that's really far down there. Might be worth throwing a little bit of money on as well.
One last thing. Since we all picked a driver to win that is currently out, I think most of us probably have Blaney getting in over Truex, but is there anyone that thinks Truex will be the one that gets in?
No.
No.
I would go Blaney.
So I was looking at it earlier, and I was so just Bob did the math. Bob Bacchus, obviously. Blaney can lock in with 11 stage points more than Truex. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, but I think Kurt not being in the race or not being in the playoffs almost takes Blaney's potential strategy and just flips it on the head, where he can just go out, win the stage, and be almost locked in if Truex doesn't get any points.
I was thinking that too. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go out there and he's going to try to win these stages to build the buffer so he doesn't even have to worry about it at the end of the day. I agree 100%.
A sixth place finish regardless, because if Truex or Blaney win, the other one's in. That's just no one else is close enough to them in points. Obviously, if we get a repeat winner or someone not eligible like Corey LaJoie or David Reagan, who's in this race, win, then Truex and Blaney's still in. But if someone else wins and it comes down to it, Blaney has like 25 points, I think. Truex can only gain 55 since, again, if he won the race, Blaney would be in anyway. So he can only get in the 55 from finishing second with 2 stage wins. And the Fords, particularly the Penske Fords, have still been pretty good at kind of controlling these races, especially in the beginning. So if they just kind of roadblock Blaney into a stage win, it would not be surprising.
No. And then it really just comes down to what Truex does in those stages. And I think if you're Truex, I almost feel like now you just lay back and get to the third stage because you don't have to chase Blaney to get yourself in on points. I think you're just, you got to play it safe in case you have to win the race because 25 points is going to be really hard for him to make up.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, especially because we talked about this too. Like all the guys we picked, like if they're up there, I'm sure they'll run for it. But especially stage one, like they have no incentive to put themselves in any kind of danger. None of them care about the points.
That one playoff point does not mean anything if you are not in the playoffs. So I would agree.
Straight up, if we had a wreck, like coming to the checker in stage one that took out like 8 playoff cars, it would not be surprising because if they were the only guys up there fighting for that stage point, I would not be surprised. And it's so close that I would not be surprised that if every point literally mattered multiple times in these playoffs when we get there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's just...
No, go ahead.
No, so I was gonna say, oh crap! Now I lost it. All right. It was, damn it! It was an interesting statistic. Oh well.
All right.
Oh, I remember now. Harvick. I wanted to, because it's obviously not gonna be a bet on here. We gonna set like a personal odd lines here for if Harvick's gonna wreck or not?
He's gonna wreck. Listen, see, he's been in wrecks and still gotten good finishes. I saw that. He's been in a wreck in every Coke Zero 400 since 2014.
Yeah,
he's gonna wreck. That's about as automatic as the Ravens winning a preseason game right now.
That's a pretty crazy stat. Like when you really think about it, though.
Here's my stat. Why ultimately, honestly, if either of these guys miss, I will not care. First of all, for all the shenanigans we talk about, if things stay the way they are, our playoff field comes from the guys top 16 in points. So, despite all the chaos, we're sitting in this spot where, just like most other years, But how many combined between Blaney and Truex podiums, top 3 finishes, do you think they have?
Oh, it's not a lot because
I'm gonna
I
go 8.
did see it kind of.
This year, obviously.
Well, yeah, 8.
No, I
You-
think it's only like 2.
Really?
It's 1.
It's 1. Yeah.
Wow.
Blaney finished 3rd at Nashville, and
I
that is
thought
the
it was
only
better
top
than that.
3s either of them have.
He
They only
really
have,
didn't even deserve that there either.
I think they only have like 4 combined top or 5 combined top 4s as well.
Mhm.
I wonder what the Penske data engineers are saying Blaney should do this weekend.
Truex sitting here with 3 top 5s. If it stays the way it is, or Eric Jones, Eric Almirola, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon win the race to get in, Truex will enter tied for the fewest top 5s in the playoffs.
Mhm.
And who's that tied with? Byron? Bowman?
But tied with Byron has 4. Now he hasn't had one in like 3 years, effectively. But he's tied with Bowman and Chase Briscoe.
Yeah,
What does
that's
Cindric have?
Cindric is up to 4 now.
hey, solid rookie year from the kid. All right, going over to the group bets finally. Some of these are probably going to be a little bit easier than others. Group A, we got Chase Elliott plus 200, Ryan Blaney plus 275, Denny Hamlin plus 275, and William Byron plus 300. I'd be shocked if any of us went with William Byron. So I feel like this is almost a 3-way group pick here instead of a 4.
And of those 3, I am taking. Well, first of all, I actually would not be. I would consider taking Byron, but I'm not. I am taking Ryan Blaney here.
I'm gonna go Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I'm going to go Denny as well. I just think if he's not in position to win this race, it's probably going to be because he's pushing Bubba. So, and honestly, like, hey, if Ryan Blaney's already locked himself in and he can't pull out and pass to win, he'd probably help Bubba too. So maybe he'd be in line there. I don't know. I just think Denny Hamlin, he just seems like he's due. He's had so many close calls between incidents and getting disqualified. I think he's going to have a good race. Hopefully not win. But in this group, I think he'll be the guy. Going to Group B, we have Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, and Joey Logano all at plus 250, and Kyle Busch at plus 300.
Joey Logano.
Joey.
Well, that's a boring one right there. We're all in on Joey. I think it's safe to say he's the best plate racer in there. I know Ross does have the win at Talladega, but that was quite literally because everybody else did stuff and he didn't.
I can say by his own admission, he did nothing, and that's how he won.
Absolutely nothing. And Kyle Larson was one of those people that did do something, which ultimately opened the door for Ross to win.
That was one of Kurt's biggest hits this year. Wonder how much of a factor that played in the situation we're in right now.
I saw that video today, and I did not realize.
Worse than I remembered. Yeah,
I did not realize. Not even that. How many times he's wrecked this year?
Yeah, but that Dega hit especially, like Larson got him good, man.
That one was a really good. I think the Bristol one's the worst. Like driver's side, no safer barrier.
There's a couple on that video that I thought
it
was kind of laughable that they were on that video because they just weren't hits.
I get why they did that. It was just to show how many incidents he's been in. I would agree, but no, that Dega hit, man, that's a lot harder than I remember it too. Moving to Group C, we got Bubba Wallace plus 175, Austin Cindric plus 250, Tyler Reddick and Martin Truex Jr. coming in at plus 330.
Bubba.
I'm going to be a little different here. I'll take Cindric with the groups. It's similarly to like the Denny Hamlin one, where I think he's going to be up front in general, and if he's not in position to win, it's because he's going to be pushing Bubba. I could see Cindric working with Blaney and Logano. We know how the Penske cars are when they get up front. It's kind of what happened in the 500 this year. So I'll roll the dice, go with the rookie who has the Daytona 500 ring from earlier in the season. And the last group, Group D, we have Daniel Suarez at plus 220, Alex Bowman at plus 250, and then Kevin Harvick and Christopher Bell at plus 300. Feel like we all think Harvick's going to wreck, so that might rule him out. But who are you guys looking at?
Christopher Bell.
Oh man, I feel C-Bell.
All right, that's all of us for Christopher Bell. Last couple ones there.
Those were some boring group picks this week,
yeah, some of them were there. I would have to say with Bell, he's just the best all-around driver probably in this group. Harvick's been coming on hot late, but just his track record in this race, I can't pick him at plus 300. I feel like I'd be throwing away money at that point. Maybe Bowman or Suarez could do something. I know
Bowman doesn't know what his right foot's supposed to do at these places.
Well, you heard it here, guys. Never mind then. It's Daniel Suarez or Christopher Bell in this. You got a 50-50 chance, according to us. But we are all on Christopher Bell at plus 300 in that group. Going over to the fantasy teams, this is going to be very much like the Xfinity series. You could draw the names out of a hat, and as long as you stay under the salary, you should be good. What are your teams looking like?
Chase Elliott, 10,500. Ryan Blaney, 10,000. Bubba Wallace, 7,800. Michael McDowell, 7,300. Brad Keselowski, 7,200. And Austin Dillon, 7,000.
So I just picked the 6 guys that I think need to win or are most likely to win. So I have Buescher, Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse, and Bubba Wallace.
So we almost have the same team. I went with Chris Buescher, 7,700, Austin Dillon, 7,000, Brad Keselowski, 7,200, Michael McDowell, 7,300, Bubba Wallace, 7,800. And my one difference is we'll go with one of the heavy hitters at the plate tracks, Denny Hamlin, at 9,600. So I don't really think we need to go over it because at the end of the day, Daytona's Daytona. As much as I love fantasy, and that's what we do, a lot of this podcast is betting and fantasy picks. When it comes to Daytona, it's just hard. Daytona and Talladega, even Atlanta this year, very, very hard to come up with these teams because anything could happen.
I've got a 6,800 in salary sitting there. So
I was gonna say you have like a whole other driver left.
Maybe DraftKings will be nice and let me take that money home and put it in my pocket.
maybe if you ask, they'll let you put it on another driver so you get a 7th guy on your team. That still might not be enough to win. That's how insane these plate races are.
But it's Daytona, so my team could also very well be the best possible team this weekend.
They could finish 1 through 6, and I wouldn't be shocked. They could finish 40th through 34th or whatever, and I wouldn't be shocked. I don't even know. They have even.
I don't know if you remember a few years back at the Daytona 500. I did that team where I just picked the 6 lowest starters because I said, it's got the most point potential. Why not?
Yeah. Hey,
Brandon,
it's worth it.
There are only 40 cars that can even be in the field. They can't finish 44th.
He didn't say 44th.
I didn't know if they had 40. I said 34th.
No, well, that's still wrong because it'd be 35th.
35th, yeah. All right.
I think there's 3 open cars. 2 open cars. 1 open car. I think it's just Beard with Gregson, actually.
I think it's only 37.
So 37.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, RCR decided not to run Austin Hill this weekend, but at Michigan.
That would have made so much more sense, especially give
that was
Austin Dillon another.
I thought the announcement initially was, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, with how he's run at the plate tracks this year,
and with how Richard Childress talks about him at the plate tracks.
That's the thing. You don't want Austin Hill in this race because then he'll probably win.
Well, not if you tell him, if you beat grandson, you're never driving one of my cars again.
Oh, man. If the way he was talking so highly of him, if he won that race, he might just give him the 3 car. I doubt it.
Will he paint it black, too?
Maybe. He reminds him of Dale so much, maybe. And people say that. I mean, Austin had a pretty black car a couple years ago. 2020, that Bass Pro Shop car, they raised up the lines. And I remember seeing that when they announced that.
They had a throwback scheme, right? That looked a lot like the.
No, they've never done one that's the Black 3. They've done
it wasn't actually the Black 3, but I could have sworn there was one that looked like it. Maybe
not like Dale's. Like that Bass Pro Shop car that he ran in 2020. That one was damn, they're really teasing us. Like I'm waiting for them to run that throwback at Darlington one year, and like that 2020 Bass Pro Shop car, man, that was cool. I only won in it. I mean, that was cool too. But hey, I don't mind seeing the 3 in victory lane. We know that. Yeah. But that's gonna do it for all the fantasy stuff. Any final thoughts, guys?
Nothing this week.
Nothing this week. Well, I know we're going to have a lot to talk about after Saturday night. I'm sure there could very well be a lot of changes in the points, potentially, especially if one of these guys that need to win do pull it off. But until next time, guys, thanks for listening to the Bernie Breakdown, and we will be back at it after what we hope to be is another great weekend of NASCAR action from Daytona. Brandon Monroe here. Thanks for listening to the Bernie Breakdown. Remember to keep listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform. And remember to follow us at Bernie Breakdown on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all of our other social media platforms.